Hey, everybody, welcome back. Kolpack and Izzo podcast. We've been off for a bit. Yeah, who are you? Who the hell are you? What are you doing in my studio?
I don't know. I just was on my way to the pizza parlor and stopped right in.
Jeff Kolpack, Dom Izzo with you here on our podcast brought to you by Gate City Bank. We've been off for a bit. We are back in some interesting times, and I will attribute this to a infamous Seinfeld episode with the airing of grievances. We don't have anything in front of us here. I just wanted to open up the mic to Kolpack because he and I have not been in the same studio in 3 months to just riff on whatever fits the bill here on this particular day. So the floor is yours. Where are you at right now?
We're gonna play football. Let's start right there.
Hold on. Before that, how are you?
I'm doing well.
Is everybody good?
Pretty fine.
Good.
Yeah.
I'm not kidding.
You had a couple wrinkles since Jackman was born.
Yeah.
Sleep being a little problem, my friend.
It's you know the drill on that.
Oh.
It's already been a year. I can't even believe it. You know what I mean? It's just been fantastic.
My intake
holy cow.
with children, my intake of caffeine just like quadrupled. So a cup of coffee, I still need it to this day. I need it hugely strong, or else it tastes like water to me. And that's because of my kids.
Well, there you go.
Because they never slept.
Jack has been really good on that.
Has he?
He's been fantastic. So knock on wood, through the first year, he's been tremendous on that front. So I'm glad to hear everybody is good. Everybody is good on my front. New York, as you know, went through the hell of it.
I always worried about your father.
Even upstate, had some running. Even just last week, my hometown had an outbreak of 30 people come down with coronavirus, and thankfully everybody's been smart. Everybody's been good there. So it's been a hell of a time. I know nobody really cares, Kolpack, about how we do our job, but just I think for the last 100 days to try and be a sports writer and a radio sports reporter without games, this has been unbelievably difficult. Unbelievably difficult.
I miss being in the office, and I think a lot of people out there can sympathize with
when's
that.
the last time you were actually in the Forum building?
I snuck in on a Sunday because I had to do some research on the Fargo Dome. So I went into our library Sunday night, like 8 or 9. Nobody's around.
Right.
I don't know if I'm in trouble now for doing that, admitting that. But I think, hopefully things can open up and get back into the office. Now, we've done, I think, and I'm not going to toot our own horn here, but we've done a pretty good job.
Yes.
Being separated, but yet having a unified sports department for what we've had. We lost a couple guys, a guy and a girl to news.
To news, yep.
And we hope to get them back here soon. I think Adam's coming back to high school here pretty soon.
Excellent.
So that'll be really good for the readership. Obviously, we made a lot of changes with the newspaper, but and here's what I tell people: we were headed that way anyway. If we're going to work, and we will work, and we will make this work, we have to make journalism work, that we were going to go to the digital age anyway. We just sped things up here a little bit.
And already the number of subscriptions is well above anywhere. The highest projections for this has been through the roof.
Yeah, that's really good to see. It's a good start.
Absolutely.
You can't sit there and go, okay, we've made it. But the response from the public has really blown us out of the water.
Yeah.
And that's been really good to see. It's good to see that people care. You know why you need to care? You need to care about the budgets of the city of Fargo. You need to care about the education system.
Yep.
You need reporters out there asking questions about, okay, what's going on with city government? What's going on with the university here? What's going on with the athletic department? Like you do all the time.
And healthcare system now. That's a huge thing.
Everything.
Everyone wants to know about. That's a huge deal, obviously, now in these times.
Because we all know you give people an inch and they will
a mile.
Oh yeah. I mean, you give look at Chicago in the turn of the century.
Yep.
It's just the run amok crime that went on behind the scenes in city government. Where were the reporters then?
Right.
Yep. I don't know if they were around. I mean, journalism since then, obviously, and you can go through the time of history, but Watergate, everything.
Yep.
Reporters ask the questions.
How many questions have you got since that it went public a few weeks ago on the forum? Is that people ask you that all the time?
They've been pretty good. Yeah, the predictable stuff. I miss my paper. Well, so do I.
I do too.
Yeah,
I've subscribed since the minute I got here, and that it was obviously was part of the package deal of being an employee of the forum. But I there's something about it. I'm weird like that. I'm probably the last of my generation where I liked having the newspaper. I cut out box scores Kolpack when I was a kid and kept them. So the newspaper, the physical newspaper, was always important to me.
And so for those people, there's a function called the e-paper. So when you go on the digital, you push the e-paper function, and you get the actual look.
Yeah, it's great.
You get the look of the paper, and it's laid out like the old paper. It's just in a digital form.
It looks great, and it looks just like the newspaper. So, all right, there's enough of our
inside baseball.
Our corporate shilling on that. I'll just say on this front, to do when I was asked, hey, if you're interested in doing a 2-hour sports talk show, absolutely. Now, knowing what we know now, come March 13th when everything shut down, it's been challenging. There's no doubt. The one thing I've noticed is that the amount of people listening or watching Kolpack is way higher than I thought. Just looking at our download numbers, they keep going up each month for the show, which is great to see. I think people are interested in it, and we have not stuck to sports, obviously, because the country has gone in a way, too, that I think where athletes are being involved in everything that's going on right now, and I think that's been important, too, for the 9 to 11 window that I've been doing each day.
Are we sure they're not tuning in on the extra to see my ad for the WDAY golf show?
There's no doubt on that,
okay.
and of course the photo that's now sitting here in the Hot Mic Studios. So welcome back, and hopefully we can do this pretty regularly going forward. Now to your question. If you asked me a couple weeks ago, I would have given you an unequivocal yes, because I think that's where the trend was going. As we sit here now on the 25th of June, I think so. But I'll say what I said on the show this morning. I think everybody will start. I'm not sure everybody's going to finish the season, though, team-wise, in college football. That's where I'm at right now.
Here's where I think it's going to boil down to, do you want to? And it's going to boil down to fans, players, coaches, universities, programs. Do you want to play? Are you willing to put the risk of the virus, as being part of life? Now, it's going to be part of life for a while until we figure this thing out. For a fan, okay, if you're healthy and it's affecting, it's not really affecting the healthy society that bad. It is really affecting the vulnerable society.
Correct.
And that's one thing I think it's become clear in the last couple of months. Now, there are certain issues, exceptions across the country that you hear about, but I guess you could say there's exceptions to anything medical across the country. But if you feel comfortable going to the game, then I think you should be allowed to go to the game. I think it's going to be consumer's choice. Now, if you're 95 and have some diabetes issues, you probably shouldn't go to the game.
What about if you're 35 and have diabetes issues?
Maybe not.
Probably not going.
Probably not.
I don't think so.
No.
Going. No.
If you have some compromised issues, you probably shouldn't go.
No. Here's how I think the decision is going to boil down. The NCAA has already washed its hands. They are not making a call, Kolpack. So I don't even think it's the conference commissioners. I think it's going to be judged by the state's health departments, and the governors are going to make the call on who's playing and who's not.
I think in general, society is going to make this call on on who's going to play or who's not to. Now North Dakota, we've been pretty open.
Yep.
I think Burgum's handled this exceptionally well. And he's really been predictable about it, too, as far as this is what's going to happen. And he's predicted it well. Not him being predictable. He's predicted it well.
Right.
There's going to be spikes in May. There were spikes in May. And then they calmed down, and guess what happens? Things have calmed down now.
And more stuff has opened up.
Yeah, now we'll see if because of that, if we'll see another spike like we're seeing in other parts of the country.
Yes.
But people don't go to bars and go dancing with groups of 100 people all sweaty in a dance floor.
And if you're going to go out, wear a mask. That's the simple. I've been saying, if you want sports back, you got to wear a mask. You got to. And if the Dome decides, and we're going to get this in a second, if the Dome decides that fans are going to be allowed, they're going to have to wear a mask.
Every store, Dom, I go into, I wear a mask. I wear that all the time. I almost feel offended in people when I see in the grocery store that don't.
I'm right there with you.
Because you know what? I'm wearing a mask to protect you.
Correct.
You need a mask to protect me.
Yep. And that's exactly right.
And you know what? This isn't going to go on for 10 years. It won't. We will figure this out. So wear it for a while, and you don't have to wear it in your car. You don't have to wear it in your house. All we're asking you to do is wear a freaking mask in a freaking store.
So
I almost swore.
Good. Well, we have some liberties on a podcast. I don't think we can go that far.
Yeah.
So now let's turn this to college football, because that's the $900 million elephant in the room on where they stand on things. And as we mentioned, I think around Memorial Day, Kolpack, the groundswell was like, yep, we're going to play. It's too expensive not to. You've written stories about it. I've talked about it ad nauseum.
Oh, they're going to try every way, shape, and form.
There's no way they cannot.
80% of revenue for university athletic programs from football.
Schools would shut down if they can't play. It's as simple as that.
Not athletic departments, schools
would shut down if they can, which I think we could have a whole other discussion on how messed up that is, considering how important college football is. Okay, so let's localize this with North Dakota State. As we sit here today, the Bison are going through their 4th week for football of voluntary workouts. As of right now, you reported yesterday, only one athlete so far has tested
and all
positive.
Contact tracing from that one student athlete came back negative, which is a really good sign.
Impressive. And as you compare that to what's happened at Kansas State, LSU, Alabama, Texas, where there have been small to medium-sized outbreaks of teams coming back. That, to me, is a good sign. With the amount of athletes that are back, football was back 4 weeks ago, then volleyball and soccer, and then basketball got back about 10 days ago. That, however, the athletes are listening is my point of they are going to the shack, doing what they need to do, and then going home. And that's what they have to do right now.
Dave Richmond told me yesterday about his players. He said, and this is what he told his players, this is probably not going to be the most fun summer you've ever had. Those dimes of going to the lake or hanging out downtown in groups, you might not want to do that this year. You're going to have to sacrifice that in that regard.
Yeah. If you want to play a season, basically, right?
Let's go the other way here. Okay. These players, and we know people at K-State. So 14 football players
correct
acquired the coronavirus or tested positive. All 14 symptoms are pretty mild, not much, and really pretty short lasting too. So, and this is terrible to say, but if you get it once and you can't get it again, Clemson has 27, 30?
Yeah, 23 I think it was.
If the symptoms for these football players are not much, and I've heard other people say this, is it so bad for them to get it now as opposed to during the season?
Oh, absolutely. No, absolutely not.
Does that put them at an advantage during the season?
Well, here's the thing. Yeah, I've said this. I've said it as well. It better happen now than in September. But it is going to happen in September, and that's the real interesting part, Kolpack, is what happens if a team comes down with 14 guys. Are they forfeiting? Canceling? I mean,
those 14
can't play.
Well, those 14 have to take 2 weeks off.
Correct.
For sure.
But if it's 23 guys, like an outbreak like happened with Clemson, they can't play for 2 weeks.
Right. Then you're putting freshmen at risk because they're not ready to play.
Correct.
You're throwing some freshmen in there who physically isn't ready to play, and
that's why I think what I said. There are teams. Everyone's going to want to start. I just don't know how many are going to finish when we get to.
I did
November.
A story and I asked Matt Ensis about the Bison quarterback room.
Yes.
That is the one position you cannot afford to have every quarterback test positive at the same time. Nope. So I posed the question: NDSU will have 5 quarterbacks in its room this fall. In its room, meaning the meeting room. What's the plan here? You can't have all 5. Hanging out, bro hugging each other.
Nope.
And because what if all 5 come down at the same time? So they're all going to wear masks. They're going to have a meeting room big enough where they can space. They're going to do everything they can in those regards. But still, that risk still remains.
Yeah.
That Trey Lance, Zeb Nolan,
Noah Sanders,
yep.
Logan Gretz, the redshirt freshman quarterback. Yep, absolutely. So, that's really but everybody's in that same boat. Everybody is. And it's just but here's the thing, some of the schools, specifically Texas they didn't test before when the athletes came back. And I thought that was short-sighted. That was not smart. And it's now proven out to be that. The instance with K-State was a party, a house party, which they're asking college kids, Kolpack, not to be college kids for basically this entire year. And that's inherent.
Glad I went to college in the 80s.
But you know what I mean? But how much does the scholarship weigh on that? If a coach can say, you know what, you have to abide by even more responsibility because now you're responsible for 80 some other guys.
Man.
You know what I mean? It's a lot.
because you have a full scholarship, you have to live in a bubble.
That's what they're asking. For football, the only way it can happen, I think, because we still really don't have an answer on that if the season were to start and that happens.
I mean, I get it, but is that realistic?
We're going to find out. You know what? We're going to find out on that front. What's your percentage level right now on the Bison-Oregon game happening?
80-20.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. It's going to happen. I think it's going to happen.
Has that changed, or you've been consistently?
No, it's gotten better.
Okay.
It's gotten better. Just because the more you
I was
hear,
at like 20-80 for a while that it wasn't going to happen.
Oh, I was in that neighborhood too. Now, fans, I'm not sure about that, but I think they will. But here's the thing, and just what you said, I didn't realize how football drove so many athletic departments across the country. I knew at NDSU it was, 80% of revenue.
Yep.
I got that. I didn't know it was...
Like at Oregon, it's 80% of the revenue, too.
And they got a great track and field program that draws a lot of fans.
Yep.
And yet football is still 80%. They got Pac-12 basketball. Yet football is still 80%. That blows me away.
They also have a couple of monster TV contracts, too, that they get that's still that big a deal. And that's why, come hell or high water, there's going to be games coming out September 5th.
They're going to do something. They are.
I would say you're right on fans. I'm just curious on how many. 15,000, 10,000. I'm not sure on that, Mark.
What's that ratio? There's a ratio you do that restaurants opened up.
Yeah,
to use that ratio.
I'm curious on media. Are they going to be allowed? Are we going to be allowed? Who's going to be allowed to go?
Emailed Ryan Peralt on this very subject this week, and I may do something eventually when football season rolls around. Well, I will in August. That I go, Ryan, what about press boxes? Is there going to be social distancing there? Are we going to be farther apart? What about coaches jammed in one
tight
box?
Absolutely.
How many press boxes have we been in where it's just been packed? It's the old proverbial sardines, man. You're in there.
Too many to count.
And you can barely move your right elbow because
you're going to hit somebody else.
Well, Frisco.
Absolutely.
You're like sitting there. You're so scrunching in there you can barely get your laptop in your little space. Now what are we going to do? Ryan said he thinks he can get most people in there.
Interesting. Dome press box is pretty big. I'm curious. The coach's box.
The dome press box is pretty big, and you could probably put people outside of it too
if you needed to. Macomb,
because it has a roof. But yeah, Macomb. What do you do there?
Terre Haute.
What do you do in Macomb on a rainy, windy, cold day? You can't throw reporters outside.
Might have to. Might have to there, buddy.
I've been outside.
You might be outside like I am.
I've been outside one time. That was at Cal Poly. It was.
Oh, there's rough conditions.
The first time out there, and it was like a night game, I believe. Yeah, it was a night game, maybe like a 6:00 game. But it was okay when the sun was still out. But man, by the second half, I was so cold, miserable.
Not that anybody, like people who are listening, care about.
But you need your face. I can't wear gloves on a keyboard.
I'm saying selfishly for how to report on the game. Are we allowed to go to the game?
We have to be allowed.
And what kind of procedure surrounds us? You're like interviewing players. How does that work? You've seen on the PGA Tour where it's basically a boom microphone for like a golfer, and then said interviewer is 6 feet away.
Well, NDSU not a huge deal. You can use you don't use the front two rows of the team room, the team meeting room, and reporters that have plenty of room to space out there. Players could come up. That wouldn't be an issue. But the dome has space. The dome has space. A lot of other places
do not.
No. South Dakota State. I mean, you're jammed in a little small room there for post game. They'll have to figure something else.
Yeah, everybody's going to have to figure that out if and when that comes about. That's just, it's all of this attention. I've so not looked into the season yet. I'm just starting to do that now. I'm getting ready. Are you yourself in the same boat, or does that not happen until later in the summer anyway, about starting to get gear up and ready for
that happens later
season?
In the summer.
Okay.
Once August rolls around, I mean, you can't do everything now.
True.
I mean, you have to, pace yourself a little bit.
But here's the thing.
I'm just really doing the COVID thing. I've been reporting COVID almost daily.
Yep. Here's the thing.
At least asking about it.
That's interesting in this time is that with no other sports to talk about, North Dakota State football has certainly become the talk of the town of national networks.
Yeah,
because of the quarterback.
And I just don't know how realistic that is. Is it because there's nothing else going on and some of this other talk just sort of comes to the surface? Is it realistic? I mean, Trey Lance now. I mean, I don't know, man. It just
Well, there's some important people talking about him. It's not just everybody's on the internet. When Mel Kiper's on ESPN, Kolpack saying he's the next guy, he's right there with Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields from Clemson and Ohio State. That carries a lot of weight. That does. Kiper was the same in McShay when they were talking about Carson Wentz. And if they're talking about him now, that carries a lot of sway. Somebody's talking. Obviously, the NFL people are talking about him. And
it's fascinating.
it is. It may be hard for us to wrap our brains around.
Yeah.
But this is now a thing.
I mean,
it ain't going anywhere.
And here's why it's hard to wrap your brain around it is because FCS quarterbacks just don't come out early generally anywhere. Not much.
No,
not much. Okay, FCS players do not come out early unless you're Taiwan Jones. and you had to come out.
Pete Guerrero. Justin Herbert, I'll go right back to him, the Oregon guy. He had a chance to come out. He decided to stay and had a great senior year. Oregon wins the Rose Bowl. He ends up being the 6th overall pick. Tua left early because of injury deal. He ends up being obviously, the 5th overall pick or whatever he was to Miami. But to your point, I would say more often than not, they stay.
So Trey Lance coming out 2 years early? That to me seems that's a wow stretch.
Here's the thing, and this all goes away if he has a mediocre year, right? All this talk is done. All the talk is over. But if I don't know how you even come close to a season like he just had, but if he does, and I don't even know if it matters what NDSU does as a team. If he alone performs remarkably well, what's to say? All right, you're guaranteed top 10 money, Kolpack. You go. And you don't think twice, I think.
That's a lot of money, absolutely.
Yeah, you have to.
Yeah. I just don't know if it's going to happen.
A lot of ifs.
I don't think it will. I just my common sense in football says an FCS quarterback coming out 2 years early is just too much.
If you thought the hype around Wentz was crazy, and it was, if this happens, he has a season that's crazy, then look out, man. I'm telling you, it's going to get.
Yep.
You and Mel Kiper might become best buds again, like you were a few years ago. You ready for that again?
No.
This was great. Get back and doing this, huh? Shall we do it again?
Let's do it again. Good to be back
Absolutely.
in your old spoiled Dom studio here. That
you'll get back
bigger than my living room.
It's not bigger than your living room.
Yeah.
All right, folks, there it is. We're back. Kolpack and Izzo podcast. Thanks, everybody, for listening. If you missed any past episodes, you can download them on the Apple iTunes app. Just search for Kolpack and Izzo, and we're also available at inforum.com. We'll see you, everybody, next time.